Hi everybody, in this video I'm looking at the song Death Trip by Iggy and the Stooges. This is the final track on the Raw Power album from 1973 and it's the final song in my Raw Power series. So let's get started. If you want tab for this one and a backing track, those things are going to be up on my Patreon page. Please subscribe to this channel if you like what I do, and let's go. So there we go, and I never consciously set out to make this series. I think I started many years ago with just the one song, Search and Destroy, and then I did another song and another song, and in the end I thought, well, why not try and look at all of them. And it's just one of those albums that I keep returning to, both as a listener and as a guitar player. There's something really satisfying about playing these songs, these riffs, and quite often I found myself sitting down at the start of the week thinking, what am I going to do for this week's YouTube video? Why not do another Iggy and the Stooges track? You can't really go wrong with this stuff. So let's break this track down then, and it's a fantastic song, but in contrast with some of the other tracks on Raw Power, this one is actually quite simple. It's really just based on one riff, which is repeated for 6 minutes or whatever it is, in contrast with some of the other songs on this album, which are made up of multiple riffs, and their structure is a lot more complex. And I'm going to try not to labour this one too much. I'll keep this video quite concise. I think I'll take you through how to play this riff, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the soloing stuff. Then I'll break down the gear that I'm using and how to get some of these sounds. Let's start with the intro riff, which I'm playing like this. So lovely riff, this one. A little bit hard to figure out. I mean, the mix, the recording of Raw Power is famously quite chaotic and messy, but this sounds pretty close to me. I mean, see what you think. But I'm starting with a little pair of chord shapes played on the top 4 strings. So we've got an A going to a C sharp minor. So in terms of frets, we've got 7, 6, 5 and 5. That's kind of a partial mini bar chord, and then going down to 6, 6, 5 and 4. That's C sharp minor. Again, you can see these as partial bar chords. So you've got an A going to a C sharp minor. I'm not hearing any of the lower notes. I'm actually just playing these chords on the top 4 strings, and we're setting up this kind of rhythm. Going between those 2 chord shapes. Sometimes he's playing all of the chords, sometimes you're just hearing single notes from the chord. So at the start of the riff, for example, I'm just hearing that single note. So going between those 2 chords 3 times. Then we've got just some power chords. So this is an E power chord, 5th string root, so fret 7, 9 and 9, and just taking that down 2 frets. And then we're heading down the fretboard to this A power chord. Just got a couple of connecting notes there, so 2nd fret, 4th fret, or perhaps it's a slide. So if I put the entire intro riff together, we've got next up we got the main riff. So another amazing riff, and we're in the key of A. It's all based off of this A power chord down in the open position at the 2nd fret. So we've got open 5th string and then 2 and 2. That's an A5 and A power chord. If you like, you can play the 2nd fret on the 2nd string, which turns it into a major chord. You're going to need to just play that with a bar with your 1st finger. We need to have other fingers free for the rest of the riff, because we're then doing this. We've got this move where we're putting down the 3rd and the 2nd fingers, so the 4th fret and then the 3rd fret. So we've got that kind of sound, and really this is a D triad, but we've still got the open 5th string ringing, so technically I suppose you could describe that as a D over A, and we're going back and forth between the A chord and then this D over A shape. So a very common sound, a very common move in rock and roll. You hear that all over the place. It's kind of a Rolling Stones thing. It's the riff in All Right Now. It's the riff in I don't know, loads of stuff. Crazy Train, for example. Anyway, the riff continues like this. So just a little slide up and down again. If we're coming out of this D triad shape, and we're really just sliding the 3rd and 2nd fingers up 2 frets and then back down again. So I'm releasing pressure with my 1st finger here. I'm really just want to hear those 2 notes, maybe the open 5th string as well. I mean, you don't have to be too tidy with this kind of a riff. So and then we're going down to G, and we're playing out of this G major bar chord shape, and we've got this kind of move, this kind of blues or Chuck Berry kind of thing, where you're stretching up with your pinky to the 7th fret. We've got the power chord, pinky down, and then immediately up again. Then we've got just momentarily a C chord before coming back to the G, and the way I'm doing that, we've got the G power chord, and I'm just moving my 3rd finger across to the D string, to the 4th string, and flattening it down, so you get a C chord or a C power chord. I'm still holding down my 1st finger on the low E string, so you've got that nice fat kind of C power chord sound. The way you finger this is really important. You want to just keep your 1st finger in place, and it's just the 3rd finger that is doing all the work. And with your picking hand, you probably want a little bit of palm muting on this section of the riff. So I'm muting on the G and just releasing the mute on that accent on the C chord. So if I put that together with the 1st half of the riff, we've got this. Let's talk a bit about the soloing then, and this is typical James Williamson raw power soloing. It's got loads of attitude, it's a bit messy, it's all kind of minor pentatonic based, so impossible to play any of this stuff note for note. So what I did in my little playthrough at the start, I tried to play the intro solo more or less like on the record. I did a few things my own way, and that's what I suggest you do. For my tab, I've just transcribed the intro solo. I'm not going to go through all 6 minutes figuring out all of these little pentatonic noodles. I think once you've got a few ideas, you can kind of take it and run with it and do your own thing. But right now I'm just going to take you through how I'm hearing this intro solo. It is, as I've already said, pretty hard to hear what's going on exactly on these recordings, but this is what I've got. And the lead guitar comes in right at the top of the track. We've got the rhythm guitar intro, and then we hear the lead guitar entering just with some bends. So I'm hearing it as 10th fret on the B, and then 5 on the G. And then we're into the tune. A lot of stuff just played in the 5th position, kind of A minor pentatonic stuff. So really, it's all about attitude. So just kind of digging in. Fierce vibrato, nice bending, and let's just see how this continues. We've got it's all in these kind of standard pentatonic boxes. So you've got your main position of the A minor pentatonic. You've got this little lower box here at the 3rd and 5th fret. So that's quite a nice area to play around with. And you can also come down to the open position, which is what Williamson does next, I think. So we've got finding notes that are good to bend. So this 2nd fret note on the 3rd string sounds really good in this kind of context. And then back up to the 5th position. And there's some faster stuff. And you don't have to be precise at all with this stuff. In fact, it probably sounds better if it's a little bit wild and messy, but just kind of noodling around these pentatonic boxes. It kind of comes up to this note again, this 10th fret on the B string. And at the end of the intro solo, just hearing some muted notes, so it could be this, just an A note, maybe it's up an octave. So that's roughly speaking the intro solo. So just pentatonic stuff, lots of attitude. It fits in really well with the riff as well. So he's not playing continuously. So the riff is kind of 4 bars long. So he's often just playing in 4-bar phrases, using a little bit of space. So that's something perhaps to pay attention to. And as for the rest of the song, it really just continues in a very similar kind of fashion. So once you've got a few of these simple A minor pentatonic ideas under your fingers, you can use those, adapt those over the rest of the song. And that's it. As I've already said, it's just this one riff repeated for the entire song, and it actually works really well in this tune. It's quite a hypnotic thing just to have that sort of relentless riff just repeating over and over. So there's not much else to it. I think the intro bit does return at the very end of the track, so you can use that as an outro as well. Let's talk about gear then, and I'm using the same setup that I think I've used in most of my raw power videos today, though in fact in the very earliest videos when I was in my tiny little upstairs bedroom, I did have a slightly different setup. I was using my other Les Paul, which is a black Les Paul with a Bigsby. It's actually a Jimmy Page model Les Paul. There's quite an interesting story attached to that guitar, which I will tell you one of these days. I've still got that guitar, I just haven't used it in videos lately. These days I'm using this Les Paul, which is a 59 reissue, and I'm going through the amp which you can see behind me, which is a Marshall Studio Vintage, kind of plexi style Marshall. And Williamson, on the original recording, he used his famous Les Paul custom, I believe through a Vox AC30. That's what Williamson himself has said that he used them. And I've got an AC30, but it doesn't sound anything like the raw power record, so I'm still not exactly sure. I mean, in my experience, a lot of AC30s, they all sound quite different, but yeah, perhaps if you totally crank an AC30, plug a Les Paul into it, then you're going to get some pretty wild sounds. But for me, the Marshall works pretty well for this kind of thing. So I'm going into the high treble top input, and I've got the patch cable going into the other channel, sort of bridging the two channels together, and that way you can get Williamson's tone is harsh and it's bright, but there's still some weight to it. So for me, that combination of those two channels on the Marshall is a good way of achieving a similar sound. And I'm using the bridge pickup for all of this stuff. I am actually also using a pedal for the solo stuff. Just for the solo stuff, I sort of felt like I needed a bit more craziness, a bit more gain, so I stomped on my Analog Man Beano Boost, which is a Rangemaster style treble booster pedal. Works really well if you've already got a distorted tone. So in combination with the Marshall, I think it sounds great. Some sounds then, this is just the Les Paul going straight into the amp. All of the drive that you're hearing is coming from the amp. And then if I stomp on the Beano boost, there we are. I think the Beano boost in this context just pushes the sound over the edge a little bit, adds a bit more craziness. It's really bright, really harsh, which for this particular tune I think works well. Well, that's it for this video, and that's it for this series. I hope you've enjoyed it, and what I'm going to do is put together a little playlist of all the raw power tracks, which I'll put up on YouTube. As I've already mentioned, you can get tab and backing track for this song and all of the other raw power songs up on the Patreon page. And I actually feel a little bit sad now this series is over. I think I probably need another series like this to get my teeth into. So can you think of any other albums which would be worthy of this kind of treatment, where I break down every single track on the album? And please don't say Marquee Moon, because that would probably kill me. But if you've got any other albums which you think I should tackle in their entirety, then let me know. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.